When Canadians buy an airline ticket, they expect the airline to keep its part of the deal. When the terms of the agreement are not fulfilled, travelers should be entitled to clear, transparent, fair, and timely and enforceable compensation.
Transport Minister Marc Garneau announces a plan to make the friendly skies a little friendlier. Today, Ottawa introduced a new passenger Bill of Rights. It was promised about a month ago in the wake of widespread alarm after that video of a United Airlines passenger being dragged off a flight went viral. When that happened, Garneau told Canadian Airlines such incidents will not be tolerated in Canada. But this bill seals the deal in fairly plain language. The passengers cannot be removed from a plane due to overbooking. Also, airlines won't be able to charge parents a fee to sit next to their kids. The Bill of Rights will also cover cases of lost or damaged baggage, as well as clear rules on compensation for delayed flights. The Canadian Transport Agency, which includes airlines and government officials, is tasked with drawing up the regulations. The new rules will target flights coming in and out of Canada, which Garneau says would ensure the traveling public is treated like passengers and not numbers. He also announced relaxed rules for foreign ownership at Canadian Airlines to up to 49% from the current limit of 25%.
This would provide greater access to capital for Canadian air carriers and encourage greater competition in the air sector.
All right, new bills are often complicated. This language can be very confusing. So let's try to make sense of what this one actually means for passengers. Gabor Lukacs is the founder of the Air Passenger Rights Network. It's nice to see you, sir. Quickly, what is your takeaway from this legislation introduced today?
I am profoundly disappointed by a legislation that is mostly smoke and mirrors and has absolutely no teeth.
Oh my. Okay, why don't we dig into that a little bit? What is it about this that is such a profound disappointment? The headlines are all saying this is a great victory for passengers.
This is a media stunt that actually serves to preserve the status quo. The bill contains a number of provisions sold to the public as the greatest invention, yet they are existing rights. For example, the right to clear language is already on the law books. The right to compensation for baggage delay and lost baggage is on the law books. The right to some kind of compensation for your damages that you incur when your flight is delayed or cancelled is already on the law books, on the Carriage by Air Act. This bill is presenting those as brand new rights, while at most what they may achieve is some standardization of those rights. Those efforts are not harmful, but they're not new. Similarly, they're presenting the right of parents to be seated next to children as something new. Yet it has been a ruling for about 2.5 years that airlines have to do so. The real problem is that all those rights that we had, all those rulings that were in place have not been enforced, and that is where the problem. I don't see any guarantee what is going to change in terms of enforcement. The minister has entrusted the Canadian Transportation Agency with drafting, developing the regulations that will govern our rights and with enforcing them. Alas, the Canadian Transportation Agency has some very serious issues of integrity, of impartiality, and moral standards, ethical standards.
You raised a point about that they're not actually introducing a lot of this stuff today. They're saying they will. The line in the legislation reads, the agency shall, after consulting with the minister, make regulations in relation to flights to and from within Canada and connecting flights. Is the fact that this is not even sort of clear yet what these regulations will be around denial of boarding, you know, a lot of these issues, have they simply just sort of kicked the can down the road on some of these key issues?
They not only kicked the can down the road, but they also kicked it right to a corrupt body that is colluding with the industry. The Canadian Transportation Agency has lost its institutional independence and its impartiality a number of years ago. It is a victim, it is a prime example of regulatory capture. So they let a body which has so many problems, and which is essentially embedded with the industry to be the guardian of our rights and to be the inventor of the rights.
And on sorry, go ahead.
To the extent that they are not already existing on the law books. So the body which has failed to enforce the rights that we already have is now going to be tasked with developing perhaps some additional rights or rewriting the rights and enforcing them. But the key question has remained unanswered. What mechanism is going to enforce those rights? The rights that we already have on the law books now are not being enforced. We all see it in our everyday life. The Canadian Transportation Agency has all the tools to enforce those rights, but chooses not to use those tools. It could issue fines up to $25,000 per day. It doesn't do so. It could issue various orders and order corrective measures. It doesn't do so. It is turning a blind eye to even the most obvious, blatant violations of the law until somebody actually forces them to look into it by way of a complaint.
I do need to move along, but before you go, I would like you to weigh in on this issue of the minister said quite clearly in his speech that no one will be removed from a plane again in Canada against their will. But then there are provisions within the bill that talk about specific circumstances around denial of boarding. Are they splitting hairs here? And does that splitting of hairs leave Canadian passengers still, sort of on the hook when airlines decide they've overbooked a flight and they need to get people off?
There's nothing in the bill that would prevent an airline from booting a passenger from a flight when the flight is overbooked, unfortunately. What the bill contains is some framework for how much the airline will have to pay when this happens. Unfortunately, that is not enough. What the minister claims is simply not matching what is in the bill.
All right. Listen, there's a lot to go through here, and we need to get on to the rest of it. But thank you so much. It really does shine a lot of light onto where we're at now and where we were hoping to get to. Gabor Lukacs, thank you so much for this.
Thank you very much for having me.
Gabor Lukacs, airline passenger advocate.